So let the sun shine in, face it with a grin. Smilers never lose and frowners never win. So let the sun shine in. I'm singing for a reason. I love being happy. I love being positive. I love experiencing happy things. How about you? So the question is, are you a smiler? Are you a frowner? Are you happy? Are you grumpy? Are you a happy person all of the time, regardless of what's going on? Or are you a grumpy person who's happy when things are going great? And the reason I ask those questions, and they're very personal, but every day, and I'm sure you work with or deal with the same thing, every day somebody somewhere in the world, if not multiple people, will share with me that someone's been nasty to them, somebody's criticised them, somebody's pulled them down, somebody's bullying them, somebody said horrible things about them on social media, they've had a fight with their partner, there's been an angry, somebody just said to me recently, my partner and I fight all the time, we hate on each other. And when the person said that, I felt really sad, because I always ask the question, why would you do that? Why would you be in a relationship where you want to hate on another person? But what causes us to do that? And why do we do it, and can we stop it? And I use a really interesting, and this, I don't know the answers to these questions, but I use an interesting example. There's a book by Viktor Frankl, and he was a Jewish psychologist who was in Auschwitz concentration camp. And he talks about humans and how they react or respond to certain situations. And I don't think there's a worse situation than being in Auschwitz concentration camp. And he uses the example of some people would kill another person to get a crust of bread. And other people would take a crust of bread out of their own mouth, even though they were starving, and they would give it to somebody else. I'm going to go a little bit more personal than that. My father was in Auschwitz concentration camp. And it was interesting because I listened to him tell stories, or his personal story about what happened to him in Auschwitz. But I didn't realise it was true. I don't know why I didn't make the connection. But then I read Viktor Frankl's book, and I read the guy that ran Auschwitz concentration camp. I read their books and I went, wow, my father went through this firsthand. And my father shared the same story. He said, in the worst situations, there are humans that get worse. There were horrible German guards that just shot people randomly for fun. And yet there were other German guards that aimed to make life for the Auschwitz inhabitants better. There were people who were in Auschwitz concentration camp as prisoners who literally killed other people, as Viktor Frankl shared, to get food. And there were other people, my father observed, who they would rather die themselves than let somebody else die. And I'm using that as an example because I'm not sure if being a nice person, being kind, being respectful and treating people beautifully is in our DNA. Are we born that way and we can't help it? And I'd like to think that's not the case, because if you can't change who you are, it means that there's a small percentage of people who are really nice all of the time, and then most people are only nice when it suits them. And I wish the world wasn't like that. But have you noticed that that could be true? We've gone through a very interesting time in history. If you've lived in 2020, 2021, 2022, there were people with lots of different opinions about things. And important things like medical interventions and what the government should do with our money and how we should, whether or not we should be allowed in and out of our homes. But some of the nastiness that came out of that and the way people treated each other under stress, under pressure. So there's my question. When you are under pressure, and perhaps when you're hungry, when you're stressed, when you're angry, when your clothes don't fit you, when you're tired, do you treat people differently? Versus you're always kind and respectful. And here's another, just a random example. If somebody was to video your life, all of it, whether you knew it or not, and in 10 years' time they played it back to the world, but it might just be that they played back a year of your life to people who you respect or people you want to impress or to your own children, would you be really proud of that? Another really fun question that was asked of me a very long time ago, if a talking parrot could repeat everything that you say and share it with the world, would you be proud of what the parrot had to say? If your life was portrayed on social media, if a television show did a story on you and they were digging for dirt, would you be proud of the person that you are, or would you have horrible things to hide? And I'm just asking those questions because why are people mean and nasty and negative and horrible? Is it possible that they've got things to hide? If you live your life, if you decide to be a certain kind of person, if you decide this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is what I die for, regardless of what's going on around me. So it doesn't matter what the government says, what the crowd's saying, what social media says, what's in fashion at the moment. This is who I am. This is what I stand for. These are my core values. I'm not going to negotiate my core values. I'm going to be this person. Is it possible that you would then never be nasty to somebody else just because they've got a different opinion to you or they don't agree with you? And this is personal for me because I have lots of people who share stuff with me that I don't agree with. A lot of people share their religious beliefs or their beliefs about food and exercise or their political beliefs or their sexual persuasion or all sorts of things. And I'm just really genuinely interested in what other people have got to say. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to change my view to do what they're doing. But how can I learn if I don't listen to what other people have got to say? How can I get better as a person, wiser, stronger, more logical, have more common sense, just have a better life if I just live in my own headspace with the things that I already know? I always share that. If I'm talking, all that's coming out of my mouth is stuff that I already know. That's why I'm always interested in other people's beliefs. So I was brought up with a certain religious persuasion, a certain political persuasion. I have, obviously, because I study anatomy and physiology, I'm really rock solid on how the human body works and what could be good or bad for the human body. But I'm always open to other people's opinion, other people's advice, even if it comes from an ugly place. Some people yell and scream at me about things that I should be doing. I try and avoid the yelling and screaming, but aim to take in the information because I can learn from it. And I'm sharing all of this with you because is it possible that if you don't like who you are, if you're not rock solid on your core values and what you stand for, that you'll either fall for everything and what everyone else says, which is just a normal quote, yeah? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything or anything. But how can you get better if you don't have an open mind? And even if you want to have a closed mind, do you need to be nasty about it? If you really believe that whatever the government's doing is right or wrong, or whatever the crowd's saying is right or wrong, or a certain way to exercise is right or wrong, or a political belief is right or wrong, why do you have to be nasty about it? There's a great suggestion that I often share with my students. If you don't want to get into an argument, just smile, nod and walk away. Smile, nod and walk away. Why do you have to argue? Why do you have to be nasty? Why is your opinion more important than somebody else's? And I'm not asking you that question, I'm asking myself that question. I learned a very long time ago that I don't want to be in confrontation. I don't like arguments. I don't like fighting. I hate hearing screaming. And the reason for that, it's very logical. If I'm out of control, if I'm yelling and screaming, how could I be making sense? If I'm emotional, because obviously that's emotional, how could I possibly add value to the world? If somebody's yelling and screaming, I'm always the one that's trying to diffuse the situation for a reason. Because if we're going to live in a world with other people, is it possible that yelling and screaming doesn't work? If we really want to, and I always look for a win-win, not a win-lose and not a lose-win. So I'm not trying to convince you of my opinion. I don't want you to convince me of your opinion. How about we have a great discussion and brainstorm? That great quote that I love, brainstorm with people who have a brain. And if you've got a logical brain, you're not going to try and convince people of your opinion. Is it possible that you'll be open for other people's opinions, other people's information, so that you can learn more? And why am I asking these questions? Because we have kids now, really, and I've got a buzzy bee in here. Isn't he beautiful? I'm going to have to let him out because those beautiful big bees, and I always share this example, those big bumblebees, they've been told that they can't fly. They're aerodynamically impossible. But nobody told the bee that because luckily nobody speaks bee and the other bees don't tell them that they can't. And it's one of those classic examples of so many people get told you can't, it's not possible, it won't work for you. And because it's somebody's opinion, they've taken that opinion on board, believe it, and then they don't go and do the thing that they want to do. Why would you listen to somebody else's advice about your goals when it's something that you want to do? If somebody tells you that it's impossible, think of the bumblebee. You can't fly, mate. You're aerodynamically impossible. And here's one flying around my house at the moment. I'm asking very passionately and very personally, please be kind, please be nice, please be respectful. And of course you don't have to, but could the world be a better place? And do our kids deserve a better world to live in? Our kids have to put up with bullying and nastiness and criticism, and that's just on the 6 o'clock news. It's interesting, and this is just a side note. I also have people who share with me that they don't like being bullied, or they don't like negative things being said about them, or they don't like it when people say horrible things about them. But then they go and say horrible things about other people, or they gossip about other people, or they criticise other people, or they pull them down. There is a very special statement that I was taught as a child. They call it the golden rule. Do unto others as you would like to be done unto you. Now, I think that's particularly selfish, because not everybody's the same. I like the platinum rule, which is do unto others as they would like done unto them. But if you don't like somebody criticising you, bullying you, pulling you down, saying negative things, you then know that it's not very nice. Why would you do it to somebody else? And I'm not saying that you do. I'm just asking, wouldn't it be nice if we lived in a world where people didn't do that? If words are coming out of your mouth, could it be a good idea to consider that somebody might be watching, somebody might be listening? I always use the example, if you're in an argument with somebody, imagine that there's somebody next door or looking into the room that you're arguing, and they're treating it like a television show. They've made some popcorn and they're watching you argue, and it's very entertaining, because if you've ever been in that situation where you're not involved emotionally in the conversation, you just think it's really funny that there's these two people having an argument, and you kind of go, oh wow, that's funny. Now for the two people, it's obviously not funny. But I want to give you the ultimate diffuser of a horrible situation. If you ever feel like you want to argue with somebody, or you're getting angry, or you are arguing with somebody and you are yelling and screaming, perhaps take a step back and think about a win-win, which is I want the person to feel good, I want to feel good, rather than I want to hurt that person, which means they'll probably want to hurt me back. That doesn't make any sense to me. So there's this great expression that goes like this: I don't understand, but because I care about you, or because I want to learn, or because I love you, I do want to understand. So instead of yelling and screaming and aiming to get your point across, what if you said this: I don't understand what you're trying to share with me. It doesn't make sense to me. But because I care about you, I want to understand, so please explain. It's called seek first to understand before you aim to be understood. That's called win-win. Then maybe the person will listen to your point of view. Maybe they won't, but who cares? If you have learnt from somebody else, if they've delivered information to you, is it possible that you can learn from someone else? There's a better question. So it goes like this. Arguing usually ends up like this: you just don't understand. No, I don't understand, but I want to because I care about you. So please explain. Please talk to me. Please share your opinion so I can learn from you where you're coming from and why that's important to you, so that perhaps we can come to a win-win. And if you can't come to a win-win, it comes from a great book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Walk away. It's either win-win or no deal. I don't want to lose, you don't want to lose, so it's either we both win or we don't finish this transaction. Smile, nod and walk away. Imagine the world's watching your life. Will you be really proud of the person that you are every day? But more importantly, when you look in your mirror at the end of your day, are you really proud of the person that you are? Do you want to be? And without negotiating your core values, without negotiating your standards, what do you stand for? What are your core values? What would you die for? And be that person every single day. Could the world be a better place if we lived like that? What a great question.